Ladies and gentlemen, I promised you guys a Q&A video. And in this Q&A video, I'll be answering questions such as, what are my targets for Bitcoin in this cycle price-wise? When will altcoin season start, in my opinion? What happens if we pump into 2026? What happens to the 4-year cycle if we exceed it? And then questions like the Pi cycle indicator, do I think it will work this time? Do I think it will be reliable in predicting the top? Questions like, do I think we'll see a traditional altcoin season where altcoins 20x, 100x, 50x, or do I think it will be much more tame? Questions on how to take profits will be answered. Questions on whether I think the altcoin market will survive this cycle. Obviously, altcoins generally die out during the cryptocurrency bear market. Will that be different this time? What coins will remain? What type of coins will remain? Obviously, it's hard to find clarity on that specific aspect of the question, but I'll try my best. And questions about the USDT dominance chart as well. So quite a few questions to get into. Below, I'll have the timestamps in the description and also the pinned comments. So you can actually skip to the part of the video in which I'm answering a specific question that you might be interested in. You can skip through the questions if you're not interested in some of them, but you're interested in the others, go down below. Before we get into it today, guys, we have an exchange here that has never been hacked before in 3.5 years of being on the market. That is global non-KYC. You can sign up from anywhere in the world and use this exchange without a VPN. And furthermore, with my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life, as well as $8,000 plus USDT in trading rewards added to your account as trading bonuses for signing up with my referral link down below. This is big stuff here. It's an excellent deal. I reached out to them for partnership. They did not reach out to me. I don't get paid by them. The only thing I get is a referral link. And if you want all those things I just mentioned, which you should, trust me, I've done the scouting of the market, you can use my link down below to sign up. It takes 30 seconds and you'll get those rewards and bonuses and you'll help out the channel. I appreciate that, guys. Let's get into the content. So I'm going to be starting from the top here. These are in no particular order of importance. Starting out with the first question. Basically asking from James here, do I use any particular tools that are undervalued or underrated in terms of tracking my trades that are useful to many people? The only thing I use is Excel, right? Microsoft Excel. I think it's incredibly important, first of all, for tax reasons, to track where you bought, where you sold, your profit, but also for strategy reasons and developing good strategies. If you're tracking where you bought, where you sold, your profit in percentage format and also in cash format, and you also track, and this is the important part that people miss a lot, you also track the time frame you traded on, whether you were in a macro upwards trend or downwards trend, whether it was a short or a long in a macro upwards trend or downwards trend, and what you traded. Did you trade a pattern breakout? Did you trade a reversal? Did you trade a continuation? If you do this over and over and over again, and you have hundreds of data points for your track record for what you've done, you can then break it down further and say, okay, my continuation trades have a win-loss ratio of 30%. They do terribly. Whereas my reversal trades have a win-loss ratio of 70%, they do very well. And you can break it down like that, and then you can further optimize your strategy and how you approach trading. So I recommend tracking as much information as possible, more than just, oh, this was my profit, this was my loss, but what did you do? What time frame was it on? What coin did you trade? Was it Bitcoin? Was it an altcoin? Obviously, this is all given to a lot of people. But actually going back and analyzing the data after you've got a decent sample size of, say, 100 trades, you can actually find out a lot about how successful various strategies you're using are, how successful various timeframes you're using are, how successful reversal trades, continuation trades are, and that's going to help you really refine your trading. You know, in trading, the difference between success and failure is just a few percent in a win-loss ratio, so it's very important to refine it. Fresh question here, your conservative Bitcoin target for this cycle and the max target. So obviously assuming the 4-year cycle remains, and that's the only way we can ever come to any sort of prediction about the Bitcoin top, it is assuming the 4-year cycle, because the 4-year cycle gives us the date that Bitcoin will top, and that is October. Assuming that 4-year cycle remains, I see lots of evidence pointing to the $130,000 region as the zone of interest. Now let me be very clear, I'm not making a prediction that $130,000 will be the top. I'm saying that $130,000 is a zone of interest that could potentially be the top. I don't think we have enough data to predict the price top on Bitcoin. I just know that a lot is pointing to 130K. So I did 3 separate formulas back in 2023, and those formulas actually predicted the halving peak pretty much exactly to the price point. So I do have reason to believe that they are relatively accurate. And 2 of those 3 formulas predict a top target between $103,000 and $155,000. And so the median between those 2 numbers there is 130K. Furthermore, we have the 13-year ascending support resistance line on Bitcoin stemming backwards from 2011, cutting through the price action, being incredibly influential on many, many occasions. And that will be at 130K in October, which is when the 4-year cycle expects a top. Furthermore, we have a logarithmic regression channel on Bitcoin on the macro scale. Basically, we have angles making up this channel on the top and the bottom. Every halving cycle, these angles half, okay? And if we're going to where that half point is in October this year, which is when the 4-year cycle says we'll top out, again, it will be 130,000. Furthermore, the power law indicator on Bitcoin, the only indicator in green right here, you can see the center line, that predicted the local top in last year that led to 8 months consolidation. It's the only indicator that ever did that, by the way, and also predicted these 2 peaks here, more or less. That will be, guess what, at 130,000 in October as well. So I do see a lot of things pointing to 130K. 130K simultaneously does seem a little bit low, just off intuition, and just off the fact that even though a lot of these indicators point to 130K, you know, for example, this indicator here, this line, says we're going to be at 130K, or says 130K is where it's going to be in October this year. But we're testing it for resistance right now. If we break it, it kind of makes sense if we kept above it into October, which means we'll probably talk about higher. So although my intuition says higher, a lot of this data is pointing to 130K. And so all I'm going to say is 130,000 is a zone of interest. We could go higher. As to where we could go higher than that, I don't know, because it's price discovery. And all the data, as I said, points to 130. So I suppose it's just a little bit in the dark above 130. But so long as we're below 130,000, we have a lot of areas of interest to look at. So we've got a lot of data below 130. Above that, we don't really have much, and it will kind of be in no man's land. So I suppose the closer we get to the October region, the more clarity we'll get on where the price could go. Because obviously, if we're at 115K and we're in September, then 130K by October looks incredibly likely to be the top. But right now in May, it does look a little bit too conservative. But to be honest, I don't really see Bitcoin going any higher than $250,000. Even 200,000 seems a little bit ridiculously optimistic given how Bitcoin's moved historically. I don't have any data to base this off really, but this is just intuition. Anyone saying 500K, 400K, I mean, they've lost touch with reality, because at that point, you'd be assuming Bitcoin will break the 4-year cycle, which is the only thing Bitcoin's ever had. So what are you basing that off? You know, if we want to do something really quickly here, it's very inaccurate. It's not going to give us a good example of what's going to happen at all. But Bitcoin between the peak in 2013 and 2017 went upwards 1,500%. Between 2013 and 2021, it went upwards 250%. Look at that diminishing return there. Massive diminishing return. If Bitcoin went upwards 250% again, right, which would be no diminishing return, we'd reach $250,000. Now we're going to see diminishing return, and we're going to see it on a dramatic scale probably once again. So if we halved that, it would reach 160, 150. Okay, so just gives you an idea of, you know, how unrealistic these high price targets are. When will altcoin season start/end? Well, let's be very clear. Altcoin season, historically speaking, should have started already. It should have started back here in November last year. The 4-year cycle obviously expands beyond Bitcoin. It's a crypto-wide trend because Bitcoin controls the market, and hence any trend on Bitcoin is a trend that results in the altcoin market. We've seen altcoin seasons generally last 322 days. They happen on 2 occasions. And given our cyclical deadline at October, if we saw a 322-day altcoin season, it would have started in November. But instead, we saw a massive sweeping consolidation starting in November. And my theory so far has been that this market environment that we've seen this cycle, the market environment of sweeping consolidations lasting months on end, has not been conducive to altcoin bullishness. Altcoins react to hype, they react to greed, they react to attention and engagement. They don't react to massive consolidation regions in which people are bored and nothing's happening. So I don't think it's been a very strong cycle for altcoins for that reason. What I can say is that in the recent weeks when Bitcoin has gone upwards, Ethereum has gone upwards a lot more than Bitcoin. Ethereum BTC has spiked, and we're seeing the start of a potential momentum shift on Ethereum BTC. So I do see an argument forming that altcoin season could be starting right now. But I do think it will be different to prior cycles, and that's a question we'll get into in a second. As for when it will end, well, the only data we have to go off of, as I repeat over and over again for years on this channel, The only data we have to go off of is the 4-year cycle. We've never seen an altcoin season extend beyond the 4-year cycle for any significant period of time. 2018, it did it for about a month. That's it, right? Other than that, altcoin season ends when the cycle ends, and the cycle is meant to end in October. So until we get evidence that the cycle is not ending in October, until we get to October, until we get to November, December, January, and Bitcoin's still going, there's no reason to believe that any altcoin season wouldn't end at that date. So there's your answer there. Can we talk about the reverse head and shoulders pattern on Bitcoin? I'll be discussing that tomorrow. I think there's an argument to be made for it. I don't think it's perfect, but I'll discuss it in tomorrow's video, so keep an eye out there. If we pump into 2026, have we broken the 4-year cycle? Yes. The 4-year cycle doesn't just break by Bitcoin topping out before the deadline. It also would break if Bitcoin topped out after the deadline, right? And obviously there's room for error there. It's not a perfect trend. There is room for error. I would say there's about 6 weeks on either side. Room for error. If we topped out in September or November or October, that's fine. If we top out in late December, January next year, February next year, or if we top out right now, if we've already topped out, it's broken either way, right? Date range trends, then they're valid until they're not. And if we go too far, we extend too far beyond the top date, it's just as bad for the date range trend as going too close before the top date. I think that a lot of people have it wrong when it comes to the 4-year cycle. They think that what they want to see is this massive bull market that lasts, longer than expected and goes higher than expected. We don't want that. What we want is predictability. You don't make money by cryptocurrency going up. You make money by being able to predict it going up and buying before it goes up and then selling when it tops out, right? All of those actions you take, the buying and selling, only comes from predictability. And the 4-year cycle offers us peak predictability. We don't want this trend to break. Even if it means Bitcoin going higher, it's not optimal if this trend breaks. I would be devastated if the 4-year cycle broke, but the bull market continued for another 6 months. The short-term gains would not be worth it because I wouldn't have clarity on where to sell. Right? I wouldn't know that, okay, the 4-year cycle says to top out here. We would be in the dark. We wouldn't know what to do. And we'd be clambering to make the right decision with limited data at that point. And then when the bear market comes, we'd have no idea what to expect of that bear market. That could be the end of crypto for all we know. So predictability is very, very important. And the 4-year cycle really offers that. And yes, it would break if we go too far beyond it or too far this way, right? Too far before it. Now, will it break eventually? Yeah, it's going to break eventually. Trends don't last forever. But again, fingers crossed it's not this time. Do you think there's any chance that the Pi cycle indicator can cross this cycle? Mathematically, it doesn't seem likely. Yeah, I think you're right to assume that it doesn't seem likely this cycle. The Pi cycle indicator, for most of you who don't, well, for some of you who wouldn't know what it is, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people wouldn't know what it was, is an indicator that historically has predicted tops on Bitcoin. It predicted the top back here in 2014, predicted the top in 2017, 2018, predicted the top in the first half of 2021. And basically, it predicts a top when both these lines cross between each other, when these lines cross between each other. Again, that happened to the week in 2014 and 2017. It happened in the first half of 2021. It didn't happen in the second half of 2021. And this has been my problem with the Pi cycle theory and the Pi cycle indicator so far. The most recent top, the most recent cycle, didn't top out in March 2021. It topped out in November, okay? So the fact that it triggered in March 2021 actually has thrown it off mathematically a little bit, I think. Because we've seen, instead of a parabolic move and then straight downwards, we saw consolidation there. And these are moving averages. They react to price action. They react to where the price is. And they've worked in parabolic bull markets and then straight down bear markets before. They haven't worked, as proven here, in the type of cycle we saw in 2021. And given the fact that the moving averages are thrown off there and they take a long time to recover and return back to normal in 2021, there's no real way of telling whether they have returned back to normal. And as I said before, they work best in parabolic environments where the market goes straight up in a short period of time. That's the only thing that encourages the moving averages to actually move together and cross. We're not seeing that this cycle. We're seeing moving upwards, consolidation, moving upwards, consolidation, moving upwards, consolidation. And so getting to the point in which these indicators actually cross mathematically is going to be very unlikely by October unless we see a gigantic parabolic move, which would represent a deviation from the normal market environment of this cycle. So I think you're right to assume that the Pi cycle indicator could very well not work this cycle. I think that's a fair thing. Now, even though it might not work in triggering where the top is, the indicators themselves actually have acted as pretty interesting support and resistance historically. So I will be looking at them regardless, just for support and resistance. Do you think there's any chance we see a traditional altcoin season where certain altcoins see 20x's, 50x's, etc.? Or do you think crypto has grown too large to see this? I won't look at charts for this because I think the answer is implied in my previous answers, but I do think that we can certainly see altcoins 20x, 5x, 50x, but I don't think it will be as big in scale as we've seen previously in 2017, 2021, partially because the market cap has increased and the dilution of the altcoin market is in full effect now. There's many more altcoins, even proportionally, on the altcoin market. So the money is spread much thinner, but given the fact that altcoin sectors generally run together, that money does get consolidated into the top coins within those sectors or the hot coins within those sectors, and they generally do run. So I don't think there's going to be dilution to the point we'd never see any 5x's or 10x's ever again. I just think they'll be harder to snipe. But it seems to me that they will happen. I mean, they happen even without altcoin seasons, so I don't see why they wouldn't happen in an altcoin season. Hi Wolf, my biggest problem as a trader is taking profits. I don't know when to do it. I don't know whether to DCA out of the trade. I don't know where to find areas to take profits well. Just that kind of question there on how to take profits. And something I'll recommend to people who don't really know how to take profits is this. Identify levels of macro support and take profits when the macro support is broken, not when a target, an arbitrary target you have in your head has been reached, and not during an upwards trend. So for example, one of the reasons, I'll look at it on a macro scale because the time frame doesn't actually matter. It's the same concept, right? When I was saying down here at 74,000 that we're probably in a bull market, we're probably going to go back upwards, but if we were to enter a bear market, I would be confident that would occur if we broke below 70,000. I was saying that because $70,000 was our prior area of macro resistance and hence a zone of major support this time. And if we broke that area of macro resistance and hence major support this time, that would be a zone in which I'd encourage people to get out of the market, and that would be akin to taking profits, right? Because I had no data to the upside. The 4-year cycle hadn't topped out yet, right? There was no real indicator saying that was the macro top, and that's why I didn't believe it. But I'm just saying there was nothing saying this was the macro top. But what would have been saying this was the macro top is if we broke down from our lows, right? We broke the macro low. That would be the same thing as saying that's the macro top, okay? So actually breaking down from ranges and breaking down from trends on a local and macro scale is the same thing as a top indicator. So when you are lacking top indicators, you can use the lows as the top indicators. Obviously, that means you're going to be copying a bit of risk, you're going to be copying a bit of a loss, but it's better than holding into a downwards trend. Obviously, alternatively, there are other strategies like selling into exhaustion, incrementally selling whenever we start ranging excessively. There's various things you can do, but I actually do think that when in doubt, when there's literally no data and you don't know what to do, wait for the range breakdown. Because if you wait for the range breakdown and it occurs, you get out and you secure a nice profit. If you wait for the range breakdown and you consolidate, but it actually doesn't happen, well, guess what? Then you can wait for the next range breakdown and you've moved up your stop loss effectively and you've stayed in the trade for longer. What's your opinion on the survival rate of altcoins after Bitcoin tops? How many survive? How many will die in this cycle after the top? Well, I mean, all we have to do is look at the historical snapshot of the top 100 on CoinMarketCap from 2018. So these were the most popular coins in 2018. Now, you might be asking, why am I looking at 2018? Well, because 2018 was the second last altcoin season we've seen. So to look at 2021 would be a bit disingenuous because that's the last altcoin season we've seen. Looking at 2018 is the prior one before that. So the second last altcoin season we've seen, which is on a macro scale in terms of cycles, is not that long ago, right? And if you look at the top 100 here, you start seeing almost immediately coins that most people would not recognize, right? Obviously, there's the basics, Litecoin, Tron, or people know these ones. NEM, IoTA, EOS, completely dead now. NEO, dead. Quantum, dead. Lisk, dead. Icon, very much dead. Nano, Seacoin, Bytecoin, Zcash, right, on the decline. Verge, OMG, BitConnect, right, massive scam. BitShares, Populous, Dent, right, Status. You know, a lot of people don't recognize these coins. Now, obviously, a lot of them in the top 20, you recognize, right? They're the blue chips that have been around for a long time. But even as soon as the top 20 coins and top 30 coins, most of them, you scroll down the 50s, the 40s, no one knows what the hell these are. So that just shows you longevity, the word longevity and the word altcoins, they're not found in the same freaking dictionary. Altcoins do not have longevity. They are opportunistic investments. The only time you should be, in my view, of course, not financial advice, The only time you should be touching altcoins is in an altcoin season, due to the fact that they're opportunistic investments historically. They do not perform well in bear markets. They die and they don't recover. I see no reason to think that's going to be different this time. So 2 questions to end it off here. I'll start with the lower one. Is Bitcoin top delayed by 3 months given the fact we didn't do anything in January, February, or March? No, I don't see any reason to believe that. The 4-year cycle is valid regardless of how long we consolidated historically. So let's just get that out of the way. And the second question is Tether dominance and its link with Bitcoin top. This is interesting. This is something I looked at in the last couple of videos, and you've probably seen me look at it again in the last couple of videos. It's the USDT dominance chart. So a chart that measures the strength of the USDT coin, Tether coin, in relation to the market. When it goes up, it means people are holding USDT. When it goes down, people are not holding USDT. And of course, USDT is the currency through which people transact in cryptocurrency. So when it goes up, it means people are selling their crypto into Tether. So it's bad for crypto. When it goes down, that's good. They're deploying their Tether into crypto. Right now, it's on support, which means we're at resistance, actually, because again, it's reverse correlated, right? We want this chart to go downwards, not upwards. And it actually marked the top in 2021 on both occasions from this very same resistance line we're testing right now, which is why I've said in prior videos, the last 2 videos I made, this level is a major hurdle that Bitcoin needs to cross. We need the Tether chart to break down here. But if you want my full thoughts on that, watch yesterday's video. And as a matter of fact, watch tomorrow's video as well, because I'll discuss it again there tomorrow. It's very, very important. Guys, hope you found that useful. Hope you found at least some of those answers there insightful. Let me know what you agree on. Let me know what you disagree on. Drop a subscribe if you want to see more content. I appreciate it. Drop a like. And importantly, check out the Bitunix Exchange. It's a global non-KYC exchange that you can access from anywhere in the world without a VPN. It's never, ever, ever been hacked before. It's been around for 4 years, so that's exceptionally good track record there. Guys, you're trusting exchanges to keep your money safe, and you're paying them in fees to do so. So you want a good exchange, and that's what Bitunix offers. Use my referral link down below to get a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life. And yeah, very good stuff there. $8,000 in trading rewards available with that link. Use that link to help me out as a channel, as a content creator, but also help yourself out by getting on a great exchange. Guys, thank you. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.